Hey there gang, Jim Hart back at you here from Hawthorn Law. I'm an attorney in North Carolina and I want to talk to you about why I disagree with what Dave Ramsey is saying about the PPP loan. Let's just jump right into this. So Dave Ramsey, I just saw a video that he posted a couple days ago where he talks about why businesses should not be taking the PPP loan. Now just as a quick background on this, the PPP loan program is basically set out to help small businesses who have under 500 employees to keep from, number one, laying off a bunch of workers, and number two, basically losing their business or going out of business in light of what's going on with this coronavirus pandemic. The other thing I will tell you about this program is the PPP loan program is basically a forgivable loan, which means if you use the money in the way the lenders and the government is telling you to do so, then the loan will be forgiven. So that's the backdrop. Now, Dave Ramsey is telling people that you should not take this money, and he's saying this for a couple reasons. Number one, he says it goes against his long-term ideals of not taking out any debt. I get that. Taking this money goes against everything that Dave Ramsey has been teaching people for years and years and years. To now say that yes, you should take the PPP loan would go against basically what he has talked about for years, and people don't like to go against what their ideas have been for many, many years. Number two, he thinks the money will not actually be free. In other words, he thinks there's some sort of strings attached that basically says that if you take this money, the government is going to somehow, or the banks are somehow going to find a way to make it so that it is not forgivable. So that's the second reason he says you shouldn't take it. Number three, he says he doesn't want to be beholden to a bank or to the government for any amount of money, and so by not taking the money, he doesn't need to worry about that. That's true. That's accurate, I think. And then the fourth reason he says he's going to go without the money is he would rather not pay himself a salary and rather have his executives not pay themselves a salary and rather have his high-level employees not pay themselves a salary so they can afford to pay all the other people that work for him in lieu of taking the PPP loan. So here's my thoughts. Number one, I want to show you the loan documents that he's talking about. In full disclosure, I have taken the PPP loan. I actually got funded today, and so the money is there. It is available for people to take. And I got funded under the initial round of financing, not the new bill that I talk about in this video. These are my loan documents. When you buy a house, anything that has real financial significance, usually you sign away a stack of paperwork that's like this big, right? These are my loan documents. This is 9 pages, and it says very clearly on page 2, loan forgiveness. Borrower may apply to lender for forgiveness of the amount due on this loan in an amount equal to the sum of the following costs incurred by the borrower during the 8-week period beginning on the date of first disbursement of this loan. A, payroll costs. B, any payment of interest on a covered mortgage obligation. C, any payment on a covered rent obligation. D, any covered utility payment. The amount of the loan forgiveness shall be calculated in accordance with the requirements of the PPP. Not more than 25% of the amount forgiven can be attributed to non-payroll costs. In other words, you can take this loan, you can use at least a minimum of 75% of the loan proceeds to pay your payroll in the 8 weeks following disbursement, and that amount is going to be forgiven. If you use the extra amount, anything other than that amount for payroll, if you use it for interest on a covered mortgage obligation, if you use it for a covered rent obligation, or if you use it for a utility payment, then those amounts will also be forgiven provided they don't exceed more than 25%. So that seems pretty clear to me. And I'm a lawyer and I've read a lot of contracts. There doesn't seem to be any fine print in there. Now I know for a fact that there's some lawyers that could look at that contract, and I'm probably one of them, and find some loopholes. But the point of this program is not to try and scam businesses and get them to take, I mean, think about the public backlash that will come out if 8 weeks from now, when we're still probably going to be dealing with this crisis, all of a sudden the lenders and the banks that gave these loans out are saying, oh, by the way, now you owe us this money back because you didn't do it exactly the way we said you were doing it. Or you used the money for payroll, but those weren't the payroll costs we anticipated. That's not going to fly. Let me just talk about why I disagree with Dave. I agree with him that you should avoid debt, and you should practice the principles. And I try to practice the principles in his Total Money Makeover book, which basically says don't take on any debt, get a $1,000 savings cushion, pay off your house, all these things. But the problem is his 7-step program to financial independence, it doesn't really apply in a moment of crisis like this. Because right now, we're dealing with something that is unprecedented in the history of our country. There's a lot of bad stuff going on. I'm nervous about going to the grocery store. I mean, come on, that's not good, right? So without this money, there are people that will literally lose their jobs. You know, I mean, let's just take an example. My daughter's orthodontist. I don't know how many people he employs, probably 20, 30 people he employs between the nurses and the people that work on teeth that aren't orthodontists and the back office staff and different people that work in that office. Orthodontists, similar to dentists, have been told to shut down in North Carolina because it's not safe for them to come into work and work in close proximity to their patients. So unless there's an emergency, they're told they need to shut things down. Now, I don't know what his payroll is, but I imagine it's quite substantial. And without a loan program like this, he has no way to pay those people. And without a way to pay those people, they have two choices. He can either let them go and they can file for unemployment at a fraction of their normal salary, or B, he can furlough them and say, hey, I'm not going to let you go, but I'm going to give you a reduction in hours and I'll pay you a little bit. Or C, I mean, those are the options really. So that is a business, a small business that's going to go under if they don't receive some sort of funding. And this PPP program is the funding that businesses like his rely on. So the whole point of this program is to basically help small businesses and keep them from letting employees go or from furloughing workers so that they're not getting paid, so that we can continue money flowing through the economy so that we don't have an even worse recession than we're already going to have. Another reason I disagree with Dave is I think it is unfair and borderline irresponsible for somebody of Dave Ramsey's wealth and net worth to tell people, everyday people who do not have $50+ million in the bank, that they can't take money that is in all likelihood going to be forgiven from the government because of his principle that you don't take money, that you don't take debt. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. Now, according to the internet, now I went online, I didn't do any verification of this, but I have no reason to doubt that this is accurate. Dave Ramsey's net worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $55 million. To tell everyday Americans who are struggling to pay their bills every day and who are even worse off right now because maybe they're being let go by jobs that can't afford to pay them a salary anymore, to tell them and to tell businesses that are employing those people that you shouldn't take this money, that's just irresponsible. I'm sorry, Dave, you can disagree with me on this, but that is irresponsible. Now, just to give you a sense of how much money $50 million is, if you had $50 million and you put that in the bank and you put it in a tax-free municipal bond fund, in other words, this is an investment that's going to pay you interest every month, and you will never have to pay taxes on that at a state or federal level. If you put $50 million into a tax-free bond fund that is right now paying approximately 4% per year, that's going to throw off $2 million a year in tax-free revenue, which equates to $166,667 per month tax-free to live off of. So, Dave, when you tell people you're not going to take a salary, come on, be honest and say, oh, but by the way, I am making $166,667 monthly from my municipal bonds. Now, I don't know what Dave is doing. I don't know what his situation is. Chances are he's probably making quite a bit off his investments. He's got a $5 million house, at least $5 million house, that he paid for in cash, assuming he followed his own principles, which I believe he did. So bottom line, should you take the PPP loan money? If you don't need the money, if you've got money to pay your employees, then maybe not. Maybe you shouldn't take it. But if you're like most people in this country, you do need that money and you do want to keep your employees paid. And so I would say, yes, you should take that money if you can. Basically, if failing to take this money is going to cause you to shutter your business or lose valuable employees, then absolutely, you positively must take that money. And just make sure to follow the guidelines of the program. Use the money on your payroll costs. You know, at least 75% needs to be used on your payroll. And make sure you pay out that payroll within 8 weeks after taking the loan. If you don't do that, then yes, it is a loan that you're gonna have to pay back. Now mind you, it's still basically free money because it's only 1% and you've got 2 years to pay it back. You don't wanna get in that situation. Might as well take the free money if you can. If you wanna hear more videos about how we're being impacted by the economic stimulus, click right here. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, folks.